Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Voices in Hyperspace. This week we're talking about Babylon 5, episode 10, Believers. I am Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Nell Asylum.
This is Sunday.
And just to kind of catch up folks who might not know what's going on, Nita is on a brief hiatus. She is super busy on the days that we are recording. We're happy for her because she is living her dream. But she will be returning once her schedule is a little bit more open for us. And I even had a discussion with her. I told her, hey, we need to figure out how to get people to pay us to, travel, hang out, and I don't know, just kind of hang out with them. So maybe, just maybe, if this thing catch on a little bit and we can get a decent following, maybe we can do some stuff that'll allow us to move around the country and talk with a bunch of nerds.
To have panels at conventions.
Panels at conventions. Maybe we can. Okay. So the Sci-Fi Sisters. Have any of you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
No.
Oh man. So I'm plugging them on our episode because they are dope. I got super excited because their TikTok followed me.
Oh.
And yeah, it's exciting for me because I'm like, I listen to y'all's podcast and Sci-Fi Sisters are dope. They're like, how can I say this? They are mature nerds, all kinds of degrees. They love Star Trek, and their podcast is all about Star Trek, and they talk about Star Trek from a Black feminist perspective. So they are definitely touching on a lot of similar topics that we are. And they go on the Star Trek cruises, and that's the nerd dream for me. I talked to Sunday about we got to go one day. We got to do one of these Star Trek cruises. Yeah. So maybe, I don't know, maybe in the future, if we can create enough buzz and a little gravity around this thing, maybe we can get like a Babylon 5 cruise.
Oh Lord.
I don't know if that'll be so much fun.
I mean, we're all sci-fi. We're all sci-fi, so we could just join them.
We can go. Yeah, we can show up on a Star Trek cruise with some Babylon 5 uniforms and cosplay. And promptly get kicked off. But but that's I like that there are so many events going on in the world that are sci-fi centered. And I think the popularity, like the reemergence of Star Trek on Paramount Plus, and then sci-fi in the mainstream period. There's so many shows and so many fandoms that are like really just kind of helping, folks like us experience community, which is great. Of course, there are the toxic folks. We don't talk about them. They're not part of the community. But if we can share some really cool sci-fi experiences, ideas, whatever, I think it's great. We got so many more shows. And I wanted to also throw out there, we're far enough into our podcast now that we're going to start doing side missions. So our listeners can look forward to some episodes that'll come up that may not necessarily be Babylon 5 centered. They might not be centered around a specific show at all. We're just going to have some fun talking about sci-fi, fantasy, being creators, being enthusiasts, and just how these fantasy worlds will collide, how they affect us, and just, all kinds of cool things. So with all of that, we can actually get into this episode.
Right, because this episode was dope.
Yeah. All right. The previous episode, just to kind of give us a little bit of background of what the discussions have been. The previous episode, we were talking about, it was Deathwalker. And we had a pretty good discussion about the way J. Michael Straczynski and the writers of the show approach religion and belief. And I believe I said like he doesn't give you a solid answer. He kind of approaches it like, man, maybe everything is true. But in this episode, he's not so light-handed. While J. Michael Straczynski is presenting religion in kind of in a perspective of like diversity could be important, as far as like sharing culture and all of that stuff. In this episode, he is going directly at the throat of religious fundamentalism. And it is brutal. And the way that I describe this episode is this is the hardest episode to watch.
I remember it from when I was a kid, but I don't remember it exactly. And I think there was parts where I like left a room for it, especially since I was close to the child's age in the episode.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as hard to watch it now, later. I don't know.
I was going to say it was immediately triggering for me because of my distrust for the medical model. Even from when I was a child, there are traumas that I have that go back from before I was born, where I just do not trust. And this episode is just like, yeah, that part.
Yeah. So let's kind of like lay out the scenery. We are looking at the beginning of the episode. I don't even know what the name of the aliens are. I'm sorry, y'all. They probably said it in the episode, but it was the least important thing to me. But we have front and center Dr. Franklin with his very concerned look in his face, right? He's just to kind of give you my assessment, he is chewing the walls off acting in this episode.
Wow.
Not just the scenery, he's got his chompers around every single corner. Anyway, the child is suffering from a condition that is causing liquid like fluid to build up in his lungs. And essentially he's suffocating to death. There's a blockage that grew. Now, the parents are, whatever planet they're from, they have a very strict and fundamentalist belief. They have a sacred book that they read from. They won't let the child participate or enjoy any other type of media in the galaxy because it will corrupt him. And whatever passage that father said that the kid should read sounded like really horrible too. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Something about sacrifice, right?
It's so controlling to me.
Yeah.
Like it was a obey your parent, your family, and it's something about honoring your family no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get at some of the point of the episode they were talking about like they worship the sacred egg, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. But real quick disclaimer: we may be discussing people's religious practices, denominations. This is not us being hateful towards anyone. We all have different experiences, and so if you find something that we say is objectionable, we're only talking from vague memory. Well, in some of our cases. But also, as it relates to the episode, there are some images that we just can't get around. So we would like to have the floor open for discussion. If there's anything that you object to, let's have a discussion about it. We're not here to fight anyone. We're not here to hate anyone. We're not even here to convince anyone. We are just having a discussion. So here are the questions that are present in the episode. There's basically, you have the conflict between the doctors of Babylon 5, Dr. Franklin and his assistant. I can't remember her name, and I'm sorry, y'all. Did y'all get her name?
No, they said it like once.
Oh man, I hate that. I hate it so much.
That used to be the notes that I taking the people's names.
Yeah, yeah. I'll figure it out before this episode's over. But she has a very straightforward, materialist, secularist view, she's like, you just gonna let your child die. And the parents are like, in their belief system, it's like, you can't cut.
Julie Brown?
Is that her name?
I think so.
Okay. Dr. Brown. Doc Brown. Great Scott. Anyway, so both Franklin and Dr. Brown, they have more materialist perspective of like, hey, this child is going to die if we don't operate. You're just going to let your child die painfully, which the death is going to be painful suffocation, right? It's like one of the worst things that I can think of. In their belief, they cannot cut a person, they can't cut a person because they would be equal to food animals and they don't have a soul. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But it's very strict. They have a sacred text that they adhere to, and they have all of these. They have a covenant that they will not break. There's a lot of context that is shared with us in what's happening with their religious beliefs and their objection to having their child operated on. Are there any other things that y'all noticed with this introduction?
That was it.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
Okay. Now, of course, we like to look at how these things have parallels IRL. So is there anything that popped in your mind when you heard about all these objections?
Okay, I was thinking of the anti-vaxxers. Like, it has the same kind of flow and format that a lot of anti-vaxxers have. Whatever religious beliefs that God is going to take care of it, or that there's something wrong with the procedure from their perspective, basically, that it'll do harm and not help. And especially, you haven't got to it yet, but he suggests oils and stones, which reminds me of the essential oils and crystals.
Oh, yeah.
In real life. Yeah, that parallel for me.
Okay, yeah.
I was thinking about from the religion. Who are they?
There's a couple of them.
Oh my goodness! They come and knock on your door.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
And
Mormons.
the Jehovah Witness. There we go.
Jehovah Witness.
That they won't accept surgeries that require blood transfusions and stuff like that.
Yes. And hey, I'm open to being corrected for this, but I think what they cite is an Old Testament passage that says don't mingle the blood, or don't. Basically, they see blood transfusions as ingesting blood, and so they object to it. But Jehovah's Witnesses are not alone. There are also several fundamentalist religions that refuse, among vaccines and blood transfusions, they also refuse medical treatment at all. Anything that includes medicine or pills or injections, they're like, don't do that. There have been stories of children who have suffered through measles and other, strep and other types of infections that could have been easily treated, but the parents would object to it because, due to their beliefs, medicine is evil, or the doctor is evil, or something in that realm. And it's strictly a religious objection. It's not oh, we've studied the science of it and we don't think this will work. It's no, it's evil, and we're just gonna let our child fight it. And in some cases, the children don't make it because, if they've never encountered things that could help, help boost their immune system or anything like that, they don't make it. Those are extreme cases. I'm not saying that this is something that happens in every case. It's just, I've read stories, and yeah. So what are you all? Is that all kind of ringing a bell to y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what initially frustrates me about the episode because you got the two doctors arguing over whether, because the female doctor, and I think Julie Brown might be the real actress's name and not what her name was on the show. So I apologize, you guys. I was trying. But she is wanting to be very forward with the parents and just let them know, like, what you guys is doing is going to kill your kid. And the male doctor is attempting to like give hope in an attempt to manipulate the parents into thinking that like they're gonna see the light and come around to his, you know, higher belief system. I think that he believes that like his intellect is superior over their religious beliefs.
Yeah. Or that they'll learn in the time span that they have for their child to die.
Yeah.
You know what? So the doctor's name, she's Dr. Maya Hernandez. So we were way off, but we got it fixed, y'all. So along with what Sunday just said, so they're wrestling with these belief systems. There's also like they come in contact with the belief systems of the doctors. And in fact, Maya even calls Dr. Franklin out. I was like, hey, your God is science. You think that you're just the best, right? You think you're absolutely right. And even later in the episode, Dr. Franklin says, yes, I believe in saving lives. And he does this even after he tries to appeal to the parents and quote unquote be respectful for their beliefs. He chastises Maya for immediately questioning and ridiculing their beliefs. But even though he's not doing it out in front, he's still doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to call us, you know, racist names behind closed doors and that makes it okay.
Right. Because you're still dealing with opposing belief systems.
Yeah, it's extremely problematic. And for you not to be direct and upfront, that, you know, coddle people and make believe when it's a matter of life and death, like when you're trying to be the medical professional, don't manipulate people. You know, tell them the truth, the whole truth, and let them make their own informed and educated decision. And in the event that they don't choose what you deem is best, you have to respect that because it's their bodies, it's their child, not yours. And that's where this episode goes into the medical overreach because they want to sidebar and discuss what's best, you know, without the perspectives of the parents, and they try to go through the courts or the hierarchical system of like the military, whatever we're calling that, in order to get their way, instead of respecting the rights and beliefs of the species that they're dealing with.
But there is something really interesting that does happen, and we'll come back. I wanted to take a step back and talk about like the way that religious fundamentalism is displayed in this episode. So we immediately have the father have this very toxic response to his son is sick, and he doesn't want to show weakness by showing concern for his own son. Like, that's wild, right? They value their religious texts and principles over the life of their child. And one of my notes I wrote down child abuse through violence or withholding vital treatment. And this is what I mean by that. They don't say it outright, and they probably didn't even mean to allude to this. But when they said what could have caused the development of the blockage in his lungs, they said it could have come through trauma or infection. And in my mind, I immediately was thinking about I was recently listening to an episode of Beyond the Bastards, and they were talking about, I can't remember the name of the cult, but basically the cult was like, beat your kids, right? That was their whole thing. Is like, if your kids don't have bruises on them, you don't love them. You know what I mean? It was a very fundamentalist, very what did they call it? Corporal punishment type thing, right? And they beat the kids over everything from like children who were resisting diaper changes to children who wanted to hold hands. Right? It was it was rough. It
Like
was very bad.
being children.
Yeah. And so it made me think like, what, you know, I'm putting a little headcanon in here, but it's like, would these parents be above like punishing their children, beating children? And, you know, while it's not explicitly in the episode, it kind of like alludes to like, maybe they beat them, you know?
Especially when it's common. Yeah.
Yeah. Physical violence will often present itself in fundamentalist beliefs, not just religion, but just like fundamentalism is authoritarian and hierarchical, and they often resort to violence to maintain power structures. I also wrote down refusing enrichment and diversity for the sake of protection. That's where they refuse to let the kid watch, you know, media from the rest of the galaxy. And I think Franklin was telling him, like, hey, you know, the kids like to watch this show. Maybe you'll enjoy it. You know, something to keep him occupied while he's like suffocating to death. Right. Growing up, we were like, you can't watch this show because it's bad. You can't watch that show because the devil will get you. You can't go to these movies because it gets into your mind.
It made me think of the episode on the Orville where they had that, like the one that was going to be sacrificed for the collective. You remember that?
Was that the Orville or was that Strange New Worlds?
I think that was the Orville.
They probably did it on both. Because I know Strange New Worlds had the little child that they put in the machine.
Yeah. Yep.
I haven't seen Orville in a while.
Wasn't. You guys are right. It was Strange New Worlds because whatever that captain's name was involved with that lady.
Yeah. But that's a trope that keeps happening all the time.
Sacrifice the children to uphold your whole society. And if you don't, then everything's just going to crash and burn. It does sound very, it sounds very apocalyptic, very religious, right? Oh, the one more thing, and I want to touch on this with you also Sunday, where they said you cannot cut into the boy. Doctors, veterinarians on our planet do this to food animals that are ailing, but it's okay because they don't have souls. I have a couple questions. When they do this procedure on these food animals, are they saving the lives of these food animals?
No, because they're food.
No, but if they can do if they have people who are skilled who can do the exact same surgery, and they're keeping animals alive to do it. Of course, they're keeping the animals alive so they can eat them later. But they do you see the divide that I'm pointing out? It's like they can save life if they want to.
They choose not to. Yeah. Yeah. And also I say, like, in the case of like a cow, if you were getting milk from that cow and not eating it, you would want to keep it alive. So it's still a food animal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and like if it's sick, then just eat it.
Right. And it's like for the profit, whether they are saving it or not. And for the animals with souls, like, do they consider themselves animals on that planet? I don't know. But for themselves with souls, there's no monetary gain to keeping one of them around. But I was thinking, like, I don't know where y'all come from, but Jack and Saru, they got a soul around here, okay? So
that's what I was gonna say. Like, they're like, animals don't have souls, but we do. But if you get cut like an animal, you don't have a soul. So they've created a speciesist hierarchy.
Yeah.
And usually those are created to justify the killing of creatures, you know, for food, for sacrifice, or anything like that. And it's to create a division. So killing and murder are okay.
Right, to justify the end goal that you are about to put this dead corpse on your table and eat it. Sorry, for y'all out there still eating meat, but I just came back from a weekend vacation with my family and it was rough. Like, I'm 6 years into this plant-based eating and I thought I was cool, but when I got doused with like barbecue water out of a cooler and I had to ride 6 hours smelling like,
Death.
it was awful. Yes, it was quite difficult. So this episode also that came up when I was listening to how they were talking about the animals, but I am hesitant to accept even medical assistance for my pets. I take extreme measures to like brush and scale their teeth myself so that they don't have to be put under anesthesia because everybody, like even the veterinary professionals know that putting dogs under anesthesia, like even people, if you've ever
Putting
gone to
people
have
under
your wisdom
anesthesia
teeth,
is
is a bad idea.
is very dangerous.
Yeah, you don't always come back from it.
No,
And
you don't.
so,
Like
yeah.
one thing, like whenever there have been several celebrities who've gone to get like plastic surgery or even, important surgeries that they've needed. And whenever they talk about like, oh, they died due to medical complications. That medical complication is usually something that has to do with the anesthesia.
Yeah, my brother's best friend lost his father to a dental visit. Like, can you imagine your partner just like, all right, I'm going to the dentist, see you later? Not. And they never freaking come back.
And
And
it's
that's why it's so difficult for me. I'm sorry, love, but it's
no, that's okay.
difficult for me to listen to the two doctors argue back and forth like they are these supreme beings that just know that what they're doing is better. You don't know. You out here practicing medicine, okay? I'm gonna get off my soapbox
Yeah.
now. You got
Yeah.
it.
No, but that's one of the points that is made in the episode because Dr. Franklin even says like they ask us to play God. Like that's the job. And just to kind of summarize this part of the discussion or this part of the argument, they have made up their minds that the parents don't know what's good for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, when you are coming from a Western perspective, Western secular perspective, it's like, yeah, of course the parents are wrong. But let's look at the rest of the discussion that's being had in this episode, right? Let's take a quick segue because there's a whole other story going on in this episode.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me. I love this episode so much. I was so confused by this other part. Like, what?
So pretty much at the beginning, along with them finding, with Dr. Franklin and Maya trying to treat the boy, Ivanova is basically reading Captain Sinclair, the Riot Act, because she got a distress signal from a ship called the Asimov. I love it when sci-fi shows like Star Trek and Babylon 5 reference Isaac Asimov, because one, it's just like, hey, his stories were awesome. And he came up with some really cool ideas. So veteran nerds, y'all know who Isaac Asimov is. I actually read a lot of his books when I was a kid before I understood how like important his work was. All I knew was like Isaac Asimov, and I read like these short stories that were really cool. Like anyway, but I like it when they reference Asimov, especially if they're going to be talking about the 3 laws or ethics and stuff like that. It's it gets my nerve. It makes me get the warm fuzzies. You know what I'm saying? So the Asimov had a fire in their communications center and lost their ability to navigate. And basically, Ivanova's like, hey, we need to dispatch a fighter wing to help navigate them back to Babylon 5. Otherwise, they'll just be, flying in the dark. Sinclair is just like, he's not getting the hint, and he's like, yeah, we need to send some other people. Who's available? I bet Garibaldi's available. And Ivanova is like stomping mad, and she's like, you know, she's giving him the business about it until finally he goes, I get it. I'll send you. And basically what it is, and I get it, Ivanova's been stuck on that command center the entire series. For 10 episodes straight, she's been in that one room. And usually a Sinclair going out on a dangerous mission. Spoiler alert, we know the mission's not dangerous because Ivanova's going. If it was like a life and death situation, Sinclair would have definitely gone.
Yeah.
He would have went without oxygen and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's what's going on. And then like it's that whole second story is real simple. They find the Asimov. They're in Raider territory, so they're getting raided. She gets a cool aerial space battle, and then they make it back. The end.
But there was a part of that where, like, someone said it's not a part of our orders to attack the Raiders. And she's like, well, they're not going to make it back, so I guess I'm going to have to defy the orders. Which I thought paralleled with the other part of the story.
Yes.
Whereas she basically took other people's lives and defied orders in order to save a life. And in that case, they were grateful. In the other case,
yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. But that's a good point because so you have this whole episode is about knowing when to do the right thing. And when there's the right thing, the thing you were told not to do. You know what I mean? Defying orders, going against people's wishes. Did you achieve the objective? Was the goal met? Right? Attacking the Raiders is not part of our mission. Is not part of our orders. Ivanova clearly defied orders. She protected Asimov, but she didn't receive any consequences for that. It's kind of
I appreciate you guys making that parallel because I see that now, but it's really different. Like the orders that were, well, we never got to the fact that orders were defied yet, but the choice that she was choosing to make, the people asked for help, and the help that she offered was never refused. The family asked for the doctor's help, and then the help that he offered was refused. But then he didn't stand down. Instead, he argued with his colleague about how to, convince them. When they stood their ground, he then goes to Sinclair and is like, hey, man, you got my back. You human too, right? So I know you're going to agree with me.
And Sinclair was like, I can't agree with you. He was like, what, do you think I'm just going to agree with you because we believe the same thing? And he goes on to say, like, the purpose of Babylon 5 is, for diplomacy, to prevent a war. He goes, if I overstep my boundaries here, then that will set a precedent and nobody will trust me anymore.
Oh.
And that was after, or like kind of, it was after, but along where the family went to all of the ambassadors and asked for help. And I thought it was very interesting, all of the different no's that they got. Mm-hmm. No, because you don't have anything to give to us. No, because you can't afford it. But I like the Minbari no. It was like, what
Are
makes
you serious?
You right and the doctor wrong? What?
The Minbari no was the worst no.
I
was wrong. To me, all right, hold on. Because all right, you're right that okay, so with the Centauri, they were like, well, you can't afford it. Also, it'll take a long time because of bureaucracy, because the Centauri Republic is an imperialistic and power hungry, and it's like everyone is gonna a lot of money and stuff is gonna change hands, and it's like it takes time. For the Narn, they were like, what do we get out of it?
Right.
Like, if we help you, like it was basically, we could help you, but we're not altruistic. So you gotta show that you're valuable to help.
Mm-hmm.
The Minbari,
so I got it right. The Minbari was like, what makes you right and the doctor wrong?
Right. The Minbari was like, it was a not only no, but we're gonna question your very existence.
I was listening, Barry. Whatever.
No, I mean, I go ahead, Mel.
I also kind of between that and the parallel again with Ivanova going out and killing raiders like that. It was that's political too because raiders can mess with people's economy by stealing. So who cares if you get rid of some raiders?
Yep.
Right, and who
But
knows
with
if the raiders aren't really the rebellion?
Right. But with the belief system of a people, if one kid dies, that's not looking at the whole of what they represent. So it doesn't affect them until it affect just like we saw with what's his name? Lando and the kid not wanting to get married, like just go home,
yeah.
like go get married. like that doesn't affect
yeah.
me. That doesn't affect my power. I don't care what happens to your life. He doesn't really need to care about anybody else's life.
Yeah.
He don't even care about his own, really, kind of. If he was truthful with himself.
Did you guys look at like how have we got to the part where we that the doctor was told no? Yeah,
Not yet.
Mhm.
So go ahead.
Then I can hold on because that's where I was about to go next.
Well, here's the thing. The doctor was told no in the first scene. But he asked for advice from Sinclair, and Sinclair was like, well, he didn't even ask advice. He was asking Sinclair to like basically order him to do this the surgery, like the
medical overreach. Correct.
No, but hold on. It's not only is it medical overreach, but it's also an appeal to authority, right? Because Sinclair, being the commander of the station, can relinquish the parental oversight,
the rights of the parents,
right? The rights of the parents. And he said you did it before when you ordered the other doctor, Dr. Richards. He said when you ordered Dr. Richards to save Ambassador Kosh by any means necessary, you use the exact same power. And that's true. And I like the fact that they went back and referenced the pilot episode because stuff happened, right? And you have to remember, like, Richards is in there and Franklin is, and there's a reason. And yes, Sinclair made he gave an order. So he used his power to help Ambassador Kosh. Now, but you have to also think about it like this. Sinclair's his mission and his whole purpose is to prevent another war. And what he's trying to do is build these alliances. He's trying to build this coalition of these different species, so humans can have like some friends in the galaxy. So when stuff goes down, it's not going to be so bad. If a Vorlon died on that station, the Vorlons would have came and destroyed the station. That's that's what would happen, right? With this situation, yes, he could use the same power, but the outcome would be very different. It wouldn't be the destruction of the station. It would be the destruction of humans' ability to build trust and alliances. And then the alliance, like the whole purpose for the station, would be destroyed. So similar outcomes, right?
Did I properly interpret when the parents asked the Vorlon for help that he was like, yeah, they already helped me?
Oh man!
When the mountain falls, it doesn't ask a vote from the pebbles, something around that. Basically, you shit out of luck.
Yeah,
he basically called them pebbles. Like you have no say in this.
Whoa.
Like, why are you coming to me?
And the Vorlons, how can I say this without offering a big spoiler for the whole series? Let's just look at it like this: the Vorlons are as much as they're going to be highlighted as some of the good guys, they are the assholes of the galaxy.
Why was I
just like
your
the
mind?
Well, just like the Minbari, like they act so virtuous and look so virtuous, but basically they don't care about anybody but themselves. And like you could kind of see that from the fact that we just got out of a huge war where they almost wiped us out. but but at
Right.
the same time, it's like they can stand there and look so cute and prestige. Um, and also the thing with the Vorlon, kind of that foreshadowing
Hmm.
um, of them having to go against their orders in order to proceed, because he's already been messing with the psychic.
Yeah.
Was he messing with her then? Like, that's my question. Did he come in and had something happen to him on purpose? Like, he's the culprit to himself to
Well,
get her to violate him, for lack
whoa,
of a better term.
Wow.
whoa.
Wow.
Mentally,
That sounds like some BDSM. Whoa, wait.
Whoa, hold
mentally.
on. Do we need to do we need to do an investigation into Ambassador Kosh? To tell the truth,
Do
yes, we
need-
do. But remember, it was a different telepath. It was Lita Alexander, and she was shipped off of that. Like, we don't even know what happened to her. She was just gone.
Maybe
right?
that's why she left. He was
Maybe
there
it's
to.
his
He was.
plan with
He
the
knew.
telepath.
He probably. Yeah. He needs to be in on the telepath that was there. So, like, maybe because they changed the telepath, he had to do the other thing with the hat dude.
I
To get
So that
think
was
inside
like
her
another
mind.
way of getting that information. He had to find another way of doing it because they moved the other one.
I think with all of these implications, we may need to keep Ambassador Kosh from all the telepaths. I think there's some things that are happening that are not great until we can investigate this further. Yeah.
Well, while we table the investigation of Kosh, the doctor being refused the order made me, well, the request, I should say, before he got refused, the request to take over the parental rights of the child made me think about our own medical model. Are you guys aware that like happens in real life, where if parents refuse things like cancer treatment, that the hospitals will go to the courts and take the rights of the parents away, and then put the children through the medical procedures against the family's will?
I know
Yeah.
that has happened, and there's a reason why it happens.
Do you think it parallels with this episode?
Yeah. Yes, it does. No, part of it is there are, like, along with like the larger recognized denominations, there are a lot of cults, religious cults that refuse any outside people to have access to the children, and the children are starving, they're diseased, they're being abused, and the courts are like, we need to save the children. And
I feel that, but there are also cases where the people believe in the medical model to be the doctors first, and then as they're going through the protocol, change their minds, and it's like, now that we have more information, we've decided that we don't want to continue to do this. But the doctors in their infinite wisdom, will pursue forward and not respect the decisions of the parents, who are taking alternative methods that the medical doctors just don't believe in, and then use, like, maybe the examples that you are bringing up in order to get their way so that they can continue to, milk insurance companies and provide treatments to children that they know in the end of the day may even end up killing the kid anyway. Like, the kid may not even survive, unlike on Babylon, where he was pretty sure that the kid was going to live, but you don't really know. Like, it's not a guarantee whenever you go into surgery that you're gonna have a positive outcome.
that's true. There's also a lot of the other problems with the medical system. We talk about we could talk about medical apartheid, as far as mainly what happens to women of color when seeking the diagnosis, not being believed, not being believed that they are experiencing pain, or that they need that they need medicine to help manage their pain or treatment or anything like that. I have a mutual who is dealing with that very issue right now. She had an injury a few years ago that triggered and revealed that she has a genetic defect that causes her chronic pain. And because she, quote unquote, looks healthy, or she's a woman, so she's faking it. She's a black woman, so it's probably not that big of a deal. She's basically suffering through being refused treatment because of that. And if you dig into the history of the medical industry and just how medicine was developed in this country, it was all done pretty. It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
And so if you don't trust the medical industry, the medical model, yeah, you have more than enough reasons to not trust them, because we have, more than 100 years of like horrible history on how this stuff was developed, and it's still a lot of that stuff is still carried on today because there are very racist belief systems that are interwoven into it. As much as people are like, oh no, it's about science, it's like, your science says that black people have thicker skin somehow.
Mm-hmm.
How is that like? How do you quantify that?
Right.
Or that black people have a higher tolerance? Or, I love / hate this one, that black people are more prone to addiction. And there's nothing that substantiates that other than bias. It's only bias.
Right.
And
I just had a discussion with a nurse about these panic attacks that I used to have for decades. And when I found out that I was autistic and found out that was common, one, females don't get diagnosed with autism. Black people don't often get diagnosed with autism. Yep. I was told for years that I had low blood sugar, but anytime I was ever tested, my blood sugar's always been fine, and it's always been right after I've eaten. But because I'm black female, oh, your blood sugar's low. Like, right. There, you can't be.
No actual.
I've literally gone to the hospital after a panic attack, and the doctor's like done like a dozen tests, and they're like, "You're tired. Go take a rest. I'll give you a few days off."
Right.
Wow.
But people don't believe that like you could be. It could be anything else, because it's common for black women to have this. So that must be what you have.
Mm-hmm. Like they're not actually doing a test. They're just saying like, we've seen this. We think it's this because this is what we always think it is. So we're not going to test you.
Well, ironically, the doctors did test me, and the paramedics and the thing that test me. It was my coworkers that saw that were there for it, giving me cookies and orange juice because they just assume my blood sugar is low.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh man, that's
and even
wild.
when I tell them what the doctor says, they're still like, "Well, you need to check your blood sugar. You need to get on blood sugar medication because you must have the sugar."
Oh,
that is wild.
When I clearly have all the other symptoms of autism, they're like,
right. That makes no. I understand. So your peers, people around you, were like, "Oh, well, this." And the thing is, too, they probably are recognizing those symptoms, and they're probably present in other people, but they are always saying they don't connect it to autism or any type of neurological condition.
Right.
Yeah. Because
especially when I know for sure they were trained for it because I was in the same training.
Ooh.
Oh,
man.
So yeah, that makes it really hard. It's like and that goes with the belief system. Like they believe so strongly that is the issue, that there can't be anything else. We can't do anything else about it. Even when they're presented with the facts and the information, they still go back to what they believe, what their culture says.
Now that's what's happening with the parents in this episode. They're showing them the monitor on the screen. Here's this blockage, and they just are refusing the facts. Excuse my hiccups.
It's not even a matter. it's not a matter of the parents refusing the facts. They know, they're like, okay, we know, we've seen this, we understand this. You ain't cutting our baby. And then what Franklin does, he basically steals the child, does the surgery anyway, saves the boy's life. The parents are like,
hold on, babe. Before you say what the parents do, I forgot to mention, what was it? There was a verbal threat by the father.
Oh yeah.
That was witnessed in front of.
oh yes, that's right.
The captain, and nobody was just. So you can just threaten people's lives on this ship, and nobody talk to you. You don't get no slap on the wrist, no nothing. And then the doctor, in turn, is now disobeying orders. Ivanova disobeying orders. Is anybody being?
It's a ship full of disobedient, ungrateful jerks. Ain't nobody following no rules, nothing.
Anarchy at its finest. So I don't mean that.
Man. But okay, so because we're almost out of time here, but we'll get through this. So Franklin basically, he does the surgery. He does it as an emergency surgery because they're watching the boy, and the child actor, whoever it is doing a pretty decent job. He's like,
Yeah, he did.
Over the time, he's like losing energy. He's not breathing well or whatever. Franklin stills him, does the surgery, brings the parents in like, oh, it's a miracle. And then the father's like immediately like, you did the surgery. Mm-hmm. And the boy is like, but it's me. And they cursed their child.
They pulled a knife on that boy.
They pulled a knife on him. And they're quoting scripture. They call him, I don't know what they called him. They started speaking in tongues, calling him something. And they were like, you're a demon spawn because you were cut open. And then they retreat. Mm-hmm. And Franklin is like, you know what, though? At least I saved the kid's life. He's on like,
But what good did you do? Did you see how that boy crumbled to the floor? And this was one of the things that I wanted to mention is that when I was trying to decide with all of my medical bias, whether the doctor was right or the parents were right, it's like, how about the person who's actually sick? We give them the opportunity to make the choice. And that's what made me think of the Strange New Worlds episode, was when the doctor did talk to the boy and the boy was like, I do want to live, but I don't want to lose my soul. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
he believes what his parents believe. So you got to roll with that and like, let them take on the consequences of their choices and not override it. Because when he did, and that boy crumpled to the floor, are you about to like take up this foster child and work him through the shadow work to recover him from the trauma of losing his parents over this decision from taking his soul? How are you going to repair that scar? How are you going to repair those traumas?
Also, and that's a really good point. As a bit of a teaser, this is kind of another mark on the Dr. Franklin story arc for the series. Yeah, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Right now his whole personality is I'm a doctor.
Yeah, I'm a doctor, damn it, I'm gonna do whatever I want. He's not like McCoy. McCoy is like, I'm a doctor, not this. Franklin's like, I'm a doctor, mother. I'm a doctor, bitch. I get to do what I want. What was I gonna say? He the kid does demonstrate that he can do some rational thinking and he can see through some issues of belief, but you have to understand, like, his entire life he was raised with the belief of his parents, right? And he's conflicted because he believes, as you said. And you know, remember when the kid was explaining to Sinclair, like, I know that this is industrial paste, but Dr. Franklin believes that it's
right.
You know,
that was so cute.
Yeah. And it made that part hurt me the most because I was like, yeah, kids given the opportunity know better.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And to your point, Sunday, I think what could have been a very central theme to this, and you know, I'm okay for being wrong and misinterpreting this, but consent. Consent is central and supreme to any being's autonomy. And when you remove consent, you remove their personhood. The parents did not give consent for their child to receive the surgery, but the child was not even given the opportunity to offer consent.
Facts.
And do children, what is the age of consent for medical procedures too?
Ooh, be careful on that one. You don't want to end up on one of these real like.
Because I'm sure for any of those things you have to sign for it.
Yeah.
And a parent or guardian has to sign for it. So that would have to, if they did want to go by who knows what it is in 200 years, but if because of the reasoning part of the brain not developing by like a certain age, for the US it's 18, even though that's not technically when the brain finishes developing.
Right.
Yeah, so that type of reasoning you wouldn't give to a child under 12 at least, or realistically would be like 25, but 18 for the US, maybe 16 for the UK. Yeah, kids don't have a choice.
Weirdly younger now with the gender affirming stuff.
So
they have kids being able to consent to stuff without their parents. Sorry, I didn't mean to open up a whole can of
no,
worms.
no. But you're talking about some real life stuff, and
yeah,
and that's why I was like, when you said what's the age of consent for medical procedures, I was like, I really don't know.
I looked it up. In most states, it's 18. Any minor 16 years or older where no parent or guardian is immediately available may give consent to hospitals.
But also, like gender affirming care is different. Because I know like there is surgery, but then there's also like puberty blockers and stuff like that. So you can delay the onset of puberty. So then later you can consent to surgery. That's all stuff that I don't know a whole bunch about, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I do know that it's different. But when it comes to life-saving surgery, like emergency surgery, stuff like that, I don't think there is an age of consent. There's, what do they call? Power of attorney. Like, who is the person that is able to make the decisions? I think it does... It lies on the parents if the child can't make the decision and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure when we do get enough people to listen to this podcast, that someone is going to correct us in the comments. And I am open to that.
Like white on rice.
Nah, hey, right. Look, no. I am open to being corrected on this stuff because, like, we will encounter these issues in real life, and we want to be able to be prepared. And also, like, you know, we're people who believe in
the respect of consent for sure.
Yes, respect of consent in all things. And so if you're expecting, like, well, not if expecting, but if you are prepared for, hey, I may be incapacitated, and paramedics or doctors, they are under oath to do a thing unless you object. I need someone to advocate for my autonomy. I need them to object for me. You know what I mean? And that's very important.
Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead.
In some cases, as far as like in the school system, if there are certain emergencies, we have to get parents' permission. But under some really bad emergencies, we can call the ambulance without anybody's permission. Like, we have to just call. Yeah. And that might be because we are in the position that we're in to be caregivers for the children. But yeah, there are some things that we have to get permission for, but some things we don't.
Yeah. And all of that is some interesting things to navigate. I know we're already going along in this, but I wanted to share this.
It'll probably come up again.
It probably will. I wanted to share this because I think it is relevant to the conversation. So, Sunday knows this. So my mom passed away in May, and when the family came together, we were having a lot of different discussions about what to do, what type of preparations. And there was a moment of apprehension and not conflict, but just a little friction. And once we figured out that stuff, my sister was like, hey, you know, it would be very important if we all made sure that we had our last wishes recorded so we don't have any issues either. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was something like you have to understand, grieving your parent that you love very much is a very challenging time to be thinking like, okay, so when I die, I need these same people in this room to do these this set of things, right? Mm-hmm. But with a clear mind, you have to think like, you know what? I don't want ABC to happen, but I want DEF to happen. You know what I mean? And it is something that we don't think about because we don't want to think about ourselves being in distress. We don't want to think of ourselves dying, none of that stuff. But it's like the wishes of the individual are important. It's something that we should consider. And depending on like your family and your family's beliefs, is something that you would hope that people would honor, right? And it's a thing that we should definitely be prepared for. Anyway, nice little side.
Because this boy's parents was prepared. They was like, shoot.
All right, hold on.
He already had the robe with him. Like,
yeah. So yeah. So that's what it was. Basically, the parents was like, they came back with some very serious looks on their faces. They were like, we got this robe. I forgot what it was called. Like, we got the robe with us. Oh, the robe is like, yes, it's for traveling.
The transition, right?
The transition, yeah. What are you transitioning to?
Yeah. And so when Franklin is over there high-fiving himself, about to have a drink, he's like, wait a minute, they had the what with them? And he's running, goes to the room, to the quarters. There's the boy in the bed, dead. The room is decorated with candles and stuff. The parents are all looking serious and whatnot. And I'm just like, dang, they really went and killed that boy.
And they still didn't do anything about them killing the child. They didn't do anything about him threatening the doctor.
I didn't want to bring that up.
Say that again.
They didn't get disciplined. There was no corrective action for the death of that boy.
Shouldn't there be like a rule against murdering people on the station? Like, y'all couldn't take him somewhere else to do that?
Now,
like your planet?
Here's the thing, because it was a religious practice. It was an honor killing, which we look down on.
Right.
But you gotta, because Sinclair is all about like, we need to respect these people because in the future we might need to have alliances, yada yada yada, war. What were you gonna say, Mel?
In the previous episode where they introduced the different religions, Gary Boldy let one dude bring a knife onto the station.
Exactly.
So that's a continuity. And he even pulled out a knife earlier, and nobody did nothing. Like,
in fact, was Garibaldi in the same room with them ever in this episode?
I don't think so.
Man, I bet if Garibaldi was around, they would have never been around that kid the entire episode.
And that was another inconsistency, because if they would have stuck to Garibaldi going out to Raiders, that would have actually, made sense for him to not be there. But no one thought to have Garibaldi around after this dude threatened the doctor's life.
There is a detail that kind of supports your view. Garibaldi, for whatever reason, knew all about the situation with the kid too. He directly asked Franklin, like, so what's the deal with the kid? Like, with the lung, what's up with the kid with the lung thing?
He probably stayed away on purpose. Like, I don't want to get involved with that. That's totally his personality. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
There's too much politics for me.
He does make a comment about that. And because him and Sinclair are having their discussion about it, and Sinclair, his whole thing is like, yeah, we can't, we're supposed to be following orders and this and that, and we don't know, how do we know what's right and wrong? if I overstep my power, what would that look like? And on the one hand, it's like, okay, I understand Sinclair. It's actually cool to see someone in command that's like really struggling with this. But at the same time, I found it very interesting that this was the time for him to, you know,
back down.
to stick to his morals.
Because his life wasn't in jeopardy.
No. Okay, I get it.
This was a paper pushing jeopardy, not a.
There was no gun to his head, so he didn't have to make any hard.
I don't care if I die, but I gotta keep my job.
Man, no gun to my head. I don't know what to do, man. So, and then the episode just ends. That's it. Kid dies. Franklin is sweating.
He's so horrified.
Yeah. I'm surprised there wasn't like a haze and some smoke in the same room with him, right? You know, that would be funny. Anyway, and so then, you know, the episode ends and we're kind of like left with this whole reality of no one did the right thing the entire episode.
Right. But it was a great episode. I really did enjoy it.
Everybody in this episode made horrible decisions.
Well, except for Garibaldi, who just stayed out.
Garibaldi, for some reason, knew to keep his keep his nose out of it. He's like, look, I got some people in the brown sector that I need to harass. Oh man. So overall, how would you rate, or you know, what are your final thoughts on this episode?
I don't think the thoughts will ever end. It's just so connected to so much.
Yeah.
And 200 years from now, we'll still be making excuses to treat lesser beings like trash.
They're not lesser beings. They are just the species that never showed up ever again. They're so important that we're like, we're not doing an episode with them.
But it's kind of like they treated us like we were less. Well, I'm I'm saying it like I'm in there, but yeah, right. But you're not. So we're the same as animals because we weren't born of the egg.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they better than everybody else.
My religion is better.
Religious chauvinism, secularist chauvinism, Dr. Franklin's overall ego. Because honestly, like, yeah, he was feeling himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I knew I was right, and it's like, nah, bro, you weren't right. And then I guess because he had to wrestle with watch the kid die or save the kid. But he didn't know that the parents were going to kill him anyway. Like, no matter what he was in a catch-22. No matter what he did, that kid was dying.
Yeah. I mean, like, you kind of already knew that they said that he would not have a soul. So you need to see what they think of someone who don't have a soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, what kind of consequences that's going to have for the entire family. Kind of like what is it on Orville when they did the sex change on...
that was horrible.
Yeah.
Right. And like the whole planet was going to treat this whole family real crazy. Like, is it really worth putting the child through saving them if their entire species, like everybody is going to like treat them like the demon spawn? Is that really doing him a favor?
Right. It's like maybe death would be better than being tortured for the rest of your life.
Well, I'm going to speak for the folks who are going to comment on this. It's like being alive is better than being dead. But I think Sunday is bringing up a very good point as far as like, well, what's the quality of that life? And that's what this whole thing is about, right? We're asking the questions. And I think, again, this is good sci-fi that is making us wrestle with these questions. Like, are you...
For sure.
You know, life is being alive is better than being dead. But if your life is going to be, you know, riddled with misery because your social structure and social relations are that, hey, you're a demon spawn and you need to be punished through no fault of your own. You know, what good is that life?
I think it was
how I roll. If I ain't gonna be like I am right now, do not resuscitate, okay?
I don't remember which Star Trek it was, or maybe it was on both. Maybe it was like a callback to the original. But I remember either McCoy or Beverly saying the same thing. I don't know how I could ever get them mixed up, so it must have been a recall. Them stating, "What's the point in surviving if you can't live?"
Ooh,
Good note to end on right there, Mel. You got it.
Well, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Voices in Hyperspace. This is Legendary Black Lion, and my last wishes is to have me installed into a cybernetic body.
I'm Mel Asylum, and I would be either used as fertilizer for a tree or mushrooms.
I mean, yeah, you can do that to the body. Just put my brain on it.
And I want to be reconstituted into a fruit tree or in a dog park.
Nice.
All right.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank y'all for joining us. And if you got this far in the episode, share with us what would your last wishes be. And that is the strangest way to sign off on here. But we're doing it anyway. See you
Bye,
next
y'all.
time.
Bye.